I love these guys.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secondhand Lions podcast. We're so glad you're with us. My name is Bill Radford, and I'm here with my great friend, longtime friend, John Drennan. We've been Lions fans since John in the late 50s and me in the early 60s. And we've never been more enthusiastic about the Lions than we have been the last couple of years since Sheila Ham took over and Dan Campbell became the coach. It was rough at the start, but they turned it around. They've been knocking on the door of the Super Bowl, and we thought this past year they might actually get to go, but things didn't work out. But we're not discouraged. We still think they have a tremendous team, and so we're going to talk some about the free agent signings, and one that's got everybody excited is Cade Mays, the center they signed. I believe he was from Arizona, and nothing but good
Carolina
reports
Panther.
about
Carolina
Carolina
Panther.
Panthers. I'm sorry, from Carolina. The coach is from Arizona. Cade is from Carolina, and nothing but good reports about him. So, John, I know you've really been doing a deep dive into the free agent signings and some of the prospects. So I'll let you take it from here.
Well, Bill, it's been an active free agency period here for the Lions. And I remember 3 weeks ago, we were talking about all the holes they have to fill, the question marks with safety with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch and their injuries, and question marks, the tight ends with injuries and the offensive line rubble that we experienced, and so many holes to fill as David Montgomery got traded and Amik Robinson left, and Taylor Decker's not coming back, Glasgow's let go, Alex Anzalone's gone. So it's like so many holes. And here we are a couple weeks later, and Bill, I'm so excited as I see these holes be filled. And let's just start with the big picture. The Lions now have in free agency picked up, I believe, 9 players, not counting some of their own that they've signed. But I want to start with the holes that have been filled. And let me start with what holes we've seen. And probably in this order: center, edge, corner, tackle, cornerback, safety, running back, linebacker, backup offensive line, backup edge, um, backup D backs, tight end. Here are the holes they filled. Let's just start there. This center, Cade Mays, I'm really excited about. 6'5", 330, long arms, and a run stopper. I'm sorry, a protector of the quarterback. Huge for Detroit and Jared Goff. They've filled the running back with Isiah Pacheco. And I tell you, Bill, I've been listening to some of the experts who just think this is a great replacement for David Montgomery. Anybody that remembers Pacheco a couple years ago, such a hard runner for the Chiefs. Then he got hurt, but the talk is he should be back at close to form this year, and he's a buzzsaw kind of player. They filled potentially Alex Anzalone's replacement with linebacker Damone Clark. They have potentially filled the loss of Amik Robertson with defensive back Christian Izien, who compares favorably with Amik. They've got a potential starter and cornerback with Roger McCreary, depending on Ennis Rakestraw and Terrion Arnold. They've definitely replaced the loss of Dan Skipper as a solid backup tackle with Larry Borom. Some say he could potentially be the starting left tackle this year, or right tackle if they move Penei Sewell. They've picked up an edge depth at DJ Wonnum, and they picked up a potential replacement for Khalif Raymond with uh, um, Dortch. What's his name? First name Dortch. Last name's Dortch. I'm sorry. Greg Dortch, wide receiver, punt returner, kickoff returner from Arizona, and Tyler Conklin. They've really got a backup tight end. Some are saying he may be tight end number two with Brock Wright, tight end number three. So they've definitely upgraded there. And there's more, but that's kind of my initial enthusiasm that all these boxes that were blank 3 weeks ago now have check marks. And I'm excited later to talk about the draft. Bill, we have 9 draft picks.
That is good. You're talking about filling holes, John, and as they say, this is the holes have been filled on paper. We don't know if they've been filled on the field yet. That's always the issue, is teams that are supposed to win on paper often don't. I mean, on paper, the Lions should have been about 12-5 last year. Uh, so I'm hopeful that all of these replacements will be as good or better than the guys they're replacing. I'm questioning, who did you say was edge depth?
Uh, um, Wonnum. His name is DJ Wonnum. Came from the Panthers, 6'5", 260, and the experts claim he's comparable to the loss of Akeem Muhammad. I don't know if
Okay.
I'm getting that name right. Sorry, Muhammad.
Yeah. Well, Muhammad is I'm questioning by depth, you mean he's not going to be a starter or he will be a starter?
I don't see him starting except in situations, maybe, certain down situations. To me,
Okay.
Bill,
So,
their number 1 or 2 draft picks going to be an edge, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they go up in the draft to even get a total stud.
all right. Well, that's definitely a need because they're double and triple teaming Hutch. And I expect he'll be better this year because last year he was coming back from a broken leg. He had a decent year, but nothing like the start he had the year before. So he needs help on the other side just to be no more than double teamed.
And also, he needs to play less snaps. I mean, we want him on the field, but he played too many snaps last year. Um, and he might not have been as good because he was just playing so much. Yeah, we need help there, and I think help's coming in those 9 draft picks. And they're not done in free agency necessarily.
So our defensive team was a concern last year. Uh, I know we didn't seem like our offense was clicking like it did the year before, but we still finished third in points scored. Um, some of that might have had to do with the blowout of the Bears, 52 to whatever it was. But we scored enough points. We just seemed to take a step back on defense. So a lot of that had to do with injuries. One good thing we were talking about before we came on was Kirby Joseph is indicating that he thinks he's going to be back and fully ready to go. What did you hear about him?
Well, I hear that his post was he'll be the comeback player of the year. Now, that could be all bravado, but to me, that speaks of someone that feels like he's going to be able to get back to his form and be a real player. He is a Pro Bowl player 2 years ago. A lot of people speculated the knee injury, he may never be back as a player.
Right.
So I view that as good news, even if it's more bravado than anything, just the fact he felt he could put that out there. So time will tell on Kirby. Bill, you and I have been talking about Terrion Arnold and his potential trouble with the law based on the story you've referenced the last couple of weeks. And I've did as deep a dive I could on that, and it's looking at least like he probably won't end up being charged, or at least with a felony, and it shouldn't interfere with his season. And then the other good news on defense, Ennis Rakestraw, um, I saw something where he claims he's feeling better than ever and is ready to go. And we don't know yet what kind of player he is healthy because he's been hurt for 2 years. But I know when the Lions drafted him in early in that draft 2 years ago, they were very high on him and Terrion Arnold.
Well, you know what they say, the most important ability is availability. So hopefully this injury bug that's bitten him will subside and he'll be able to play without, there's just some players that seems like they're hurt all the time. And no
Yeah,
matter
I
how
mean,
good they are, they just can't stay on the field.
yeah, and Davenport's an example there. And, I don't think anyone's looking for him to come back as a Lion next year. They're kind of done with him. I feel that way, but I don't feel that way about Rakestraw.
Well, I think um, losing Montgomery is going to be a interesting. It's just going to be interesting to see how his replacement does. Um, I think that was a big loss. I still don't understand exactly why they traded him, especially for the fairly low draft pick they got for him. I thought he was better than that.
We got a fourth round pick for him, right?
Right.
Because all the experts, and again, folks, when we say experts, it's people who are paid to follow this stuff. And although you and I oftentimes think these guys are no better experts than we are, because some of the screwy stuff that comes out, but that most of them said fifth or sixth round pick. Well, we got a fourth rounder this year, a seventh rounder next year, and a backup interior lineman. So no one wanted to see him go, but I felt like the compensation was that more than fair. But now that they got Pacheco, I'm actually very excited about what Pacheco is going to contribute.
Well, Brad Holmes done a good job. So, I have another friend that I do watch sports with, Detroit sports, and he's always ready to fire somebody. Uh, and
More so
ready
than
to,
you. More so than you, right?
oh, way more so than me. I can be pessimistic and still not want the guy fired. I mean, we're watching the Red Wings and they're in the playoff hunt, which they haven't been in the playoffs in years. And he's saying if they don't make it, then they should fire Iserman. And back when Jim Harbaugh was coach of the Wolverines, he wanted to fire him until we won the national championship. Then he wanted to fire Campbell the first couple of years. Of course, a lot of people did, uh, but that turned
Yeah, I
out to be.
remember you went out on the edge of the cliff there a little bit in that first year, and I felt like I pulled you back a couple of times. Don't jump yet, Bill.
I remember you saying, and I think we've said this before, they're the best 3-13 team ever. And I said, I'd rather they be the worst 11-4 team ever.
Well,
So,
yeah, I totally remember that. I think probably the Lions were the best 9-8 team ever last year. You'd have rather they've been a worse 11-6.
yeah, I'd rather they'd been in the playoffs for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think they have to do something to fix this playoff thing when an 8-9 team division winner gets in. I just think that's deplorable.
Well, especially gets in as top four seed.
Right. They get a home game.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
I
mind them
think,
getting in because they won their division, but being, yeah, home game top seed, I think's crazy.
yeah, I think there should be a rule. If you don't have a winning record, you can't be in the playoffs. I would be fine with that. Well,
But-
go ahead, John.
Well, I want to go back to the needs that clearly aren't yet filled. One is another good edge rusher. We did mention that earlier. And so now I'm looking toward the draft. And we may do more in free agency. And, the name Cam Jordan is still being talked about a lot. And he could be a starting edge. But regardless, we need to draft a top level edge. Secondly, um, we need to bring in a top level tackle. I know there's talk that, well, gee, what if Taylor Decker comes back with his tail between his legs and agrees to come back for a lot less money? Would the Lions do that? If they did, I think that'd be a starting left tackle. But the Lions still need a future left tackle. So I see that as a high draft pick need. I still think we need to draft a good safety, even though Christian Izien can play safety. I think that's a big draft need. I think we truly should draft two edge, maybe one in the first or second round, one in a later round. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing us draft a center, even though Cade Mays looks like the real deal and got 3 years. It'd be nice to be developing another good backup center. And then the potential of, another cornerback backup and another defensive lineman. But we have 9 picks. So, Bill, I'm going to go out a little bit on with a John Drennan thought here. Last week I said I wouldn't mind seeing the Lions get an edge at 17 and then at number 50, maybe even move up a little bit, get the tackle from Iowa. And I was researching that a little bit more. Maybe the challenge with that is he's a right tackle, and probably for sure they'd have to move Panay Sewell to the left side, which I think they can do, but I don't like the idea of that because Sewell's so awesome at right tackle. So here's my thought this week. I'm thinking they move up maybe 17, move up a little bit, and definitely from 50, move up. So how would you move up? Well, let's say they think they can get a really good tackle at 17, but they need a really good edge. Could they give up number 50 and maybe a fourth round pick and a fifth round pick to move up somewhere where they know they can get a good edge, maybe 25 or somewhere like that? My point is, I think with those first 2 picks, they'll move up however they need to end up with a really good edge and a really good tackle.
Do you have names?
Well, left tackles, 2 names are the guy from Utah. I think it's Fano, because both their tackles will likely go in the first round. And then the guy from Georgia, whose name is Feelings, he's a left tackle.
I think it's Freely.
Freely. Okay. I don't think either of those guys make it to 50. So I think they could get potentially one of those guys at 17. Or they might give up their 17th pick and maybe a fourth or fifth rounder to move up 3 or 4 spots to get one of those guys.
Well, the two tackles that I've seen in the mock drafts are Monroe Freely from Georgia and Caden Proctor from Alabama, both offensive tackles. Uh, Another mock draft has us taken Jared McCoy, cornerback from Tennessee.
I
So,
like Proctor a lot. He's a right tackle, but they think he could move to left tackle, and he's a big, he's like 6'7", 350, kind of Giannavi Manu's size. And I could see them taking him and putting him at right tackle and moving Panay Sewell to left. And if he was the guy brought in, I would favor that.
yeah, Monroe Freeling is he, according to CBS Sports, he's the sixth ranked player in the draft. So if he slipped down to 17, that would seem to be a no-brainer to pick him. Caden Proctor is the 15th ranked.
What
Uh,
about Fano from Utah?
well, uh, I don't see him on here. The other guy from Utah, Caleb Lamu,
Right.
he's ranked 17th. So that would Fano is third best player in the draft. I don't think he'll go down to 17.
Well, I don't think he'll be top three,
No,
but
but
I
the
also like
third ranked player usually doesn't make it to the mid teens.
correct. And I confuse those two. I think Fano is the left guard
Tackle, you mean?
or tackle. Yeah. Now I also like the guy from Arizona State, and I'm looking something up here. But again, um, I also want to see him get a really good edge. So I think to get the really good tackle and really good edge, they definitely got to move one of those spots up from 50. So,
Well, to get a good edge, they're going to have to climb they're going to have to get, I think, top, maybe top 10.
well, a lot of um, again, experts have them taking the guy from Auburn at 17, and there is question if he'll be around. Falk, I believe, is his name. But again, they might be able to move up two or three spots and get him. He's
It's
considered.
interesting because he's the 30th rated player in the draft. So that would be considered a reach. The other edge that I've heard him talk about is T.J. Parker from Clemson.
Well, and you got a lot of edge. You got a lot of good edge players. The two guys from Miami, guy from Ohio State, guy you just mentioned, um, guy out of Missouri, Zion, I think is his name. There's a guy you mentioned after the combine from Central Florida. He's definitely not a top 17, but he'd likely go between top before number 50. But again, with 9 picks here, Bill, let's say they need to use 3 of them to move up and get studs at tackle and edge. They would still have 3, 5. They'd still have 4 more picks for the likes of you know, another edge, a safety, D line, running back. So what I'm seeing here, Bill, is a puzzle being filled in with pieces, and they're likely going to add 1 or 2 more in free agency and then have these 9 picks to play with. Um, but knowing Dan Campbell, something he's done a lot is move up to get like a third round pick, where he might move, you know, two fourth rounders to get a third rounder, and
Right.
we'll see.
Well, it's a good situation to have 9 picks, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. And it's a good situation going into this draft, knowing that now you've got a center, you got a running back, you got the tight end, you got a linebacker, you got a lot of these pieces in place that were such a concern a couple weeks ago. And then again, going back to potentially good news that Kirby Joseph and his Rakestraw, if those guys can come back and be players, our defensive backfield starts to look, going from a huge red flag, red light blaring to this could be a pretty darn good defensive backfield because they've made
Yeah.
two good additions.
Well, John, I know you and I were talking about gripes before we came on here, and I know you have one, I have one too. Uh, these headlines that come up on social media. One that came up this week was it said shocker trade. Might not have it exactly right, but the gist was shocker trade of star quarterback. And then you find out it's Justin Fields being traded to Kansas City, I think, for a 6th round pick. That he's not a star quarterback, and it's not a shocker. So I, that's a lot of clickbait on some of these headlines.
Yeah,
And the ones,
they get you to open with that, and then you open it, and you're just disappointed by how off the story is versus the
right,
headline.
exactly. Or a lot of times they'll say, like I've seen Max Crosby to the Lions, and I've
Right.
seen it so many times, I know, well, this hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And then I click on it, and it's all about a suggested trade that somebody dreamed up. Uh,
Y- Yeah, and for our listeners, if you're still hoping or thinking Max Crosby is coming to the Lions, there is no scenario where that's happening. None.
I know you've been saying that all along.
Well,
So
it's just math. They're not going to give up two first round draft picks. They're not going to pay, and then they'd have to pay the guy. They can't. They're not. It's
right,
not happening.
right.
Now, maybe they'll give them some ownership in the team. There, there could be some things, but no, that's not happening. So,
He is a Michigan guy after all.
yeah, I played at Eastern Michigan. Speaking of that, two of these guys, they do have Larry Borom went to Brother Rice High School and then Missouri. And then who was it? Tyler Conklin ended up playing at Western Michigan. He grew up in Michigan. But the other, Bill, there are two trends happening with this draft, with this free agency. One, they've definitely gone for younger players. They've gotten rid of five or more players who were 30 or older, Graham Glasgow, um, Taylor Decker, uh, Alex Anzalone, Khalif Raymond, one or two others who are 30 or older. But listen to the guys they brought in. I'm just going to give the ages 26, 27, 25, 26, 26, 27, 28, 25, 26. These are all guys they got in the in free agency. So younger, most of these guys have been, for the most part, healthy, and they're getting them on low contracts. They got Pacheco at like 1.5 to 1.8 million, and they're 1 year deals. So what's that mean? Well, a guy comes in and really performs. Next year, he might be looking at 2 or 3 years at three times the money. So,
But of course, he might be looking at 2 or 3 years, 3 times the money with another team.
yeah. and we're seeing some of that. But that's again what you call a good problem, where you've got these guys coming in at these low amounts, and next year, three, four, five of them are worth more. Then you got some options then.
Right. Well, they need to they need to make hay while the sun shines, and right now they have elite um, offensive weapons in their wide receivers, their running back, their quarterback, tight end. Uh, so they need to, while they have these guys, not waste the opportunity.
Yeah, you're so right, Bill. And I was listening to some other podcasters I really respect, and they're talking about okay, and they got Drew Petzik, who I think is going to be a difference maker. So we know this: the Lions are going to score points. So now we need to bring in the pieces on defense and get guys healthy, and we don't need to have a top three defense. We probably need a top 10 defense with a top three offense and good special teams, and we're in good shape.
Right. Well, Detroit Lions have infamously um, had three of the best offensive players of our generation in Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, and Matthew Stafford. And with those three guys, they won exactly one playoff game.
Right.
So, uh,
Even having two of them on the field together for several years with Johnson and Stafford, but obviously it takes way more than two Hall of Famers to win championships.
yeah, just look at Chicago Bears. For years, they had Mike Ditka and Gale Sayers, and I don't think they had a winning season.
Right. All right. Well, hey, let's wrap this up with a little bit of here we are on Thursday. You may be hearing my dog bark in the background, but we have the start of March Madness. And you and I were talking a little bit before this that the upsets that are already happening, and actually Siena was ahead of Duke. So that's when we're doing this. And Duke just finished that game off and won by a handful. So, but I say that because Michigan plays their first March Madness game tonight. So next week when we're talking, hopefully Michigan's still in the tournament, and we'll be back next week undoubtedly with more news.
And for
Eager
you
to share
Spartan
it.
fans, Michigan State is up 15 right now.
Yep, and a lot of folks have them potentially being in the Final Four. So, hey, Bill, it's been good doing this. Things are happening out there in the world of the Detroit Lions.
All right, we'll see you all next week.
All right, this is the Secondhand Lions podcast. Thanks for being with us. Take care. See you next time. Bye for now.